that's one thing that I do want to touch on. So from your perspective as a realtor, what are the top things you think that a buyer needs to do? Let's say, hey, they decide, I want to purchase a home soon. What, from your end, how prepared do they need to be when they get to you?
They need to be as prepared and buttoned up as possible.
Okay, and what do you mean by that specifically? What steps do you think they need to be taking?
So first off, they really need to speak with you.
Okay, sure.
All right, so they need to go down that process. And the reason being is that they need to understand their purchasing power and truly where they're comfortable.
Right.
Right, because you and I have done business together for a very long time, and neither one of us are trying to press them to the very top of their limits. It's
Right.
more about where the client's comfortable. And for us to go out and look at properties that are $500,000 when they really didn't want that payment is very upsetting.
Right. No, and that's exactly right. And our strategy is actually very similar, and they align. That when we talk to a potential buyer, for starters, we make sure that we go through the process to make sure they're approved. We go through an application, we check their credit, we check their financials, and once we have that laid out, we can take a look at the market, figure out where rates are, and really where we like to focus, which I think is incredibly important, is don't focus as much on the sales price, but in fact the actual mortgage payment. And if we can figure out what mortgage payment that they're comfortable with, that'll let us know based on their down payment what sales price they need to be looking at. And I'm sure that makes your job a little bit easier once you're out in the field looking for homes.
Substantially. Yeah, absolutely. And it also allows me to advise them on the best areas to drive their attention towards.
Interesting. Well, focus on that a little bit more. When we're talking about areas, what things should potential buyers be thinking about as far as, maybe neighborhoods, maybe school districts, things of that nature? What are you seeing on your end?
Yeah, a lot of people are driving towards school districts.
Okay.
Okay. And it really isn't, that's not determined whether they have a family, don't have a family, plan to have a family, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's more just the stability in pricing and the hedge of the bets in order to increase the chances their equity is going to increase in the future.
Interesting. So what you're saying is, even though you're looking to buy a home, you may not have a family at this point, buying a home in a good school district is going to help you over time with what appreciation of the home?
The odds are in your favor.
Interesting. Okay. No, I'm tracking that. That makes a lot of sense. So going back to, getting loan ready. So just to kind of touch on our process and kind of how we do it, whenever we talk to a client that's looking to maybe purchase a home, our job here at our mortgage company is to really dig into that file up front, go through everything, again, go through their financials, go through their credit, their assets, figure out what they're approved for, and we actually go a step further, right? So one program that we offer here, which is incredibly important, that I do like to mention, is the Upfront Approval Guarantee Program. And the way that works is, normally when you're looking to buy a home, you go through a pre-approval, you do an application, maybe you submit some documentation to your lender, then you go out into the field with a realtor like yourself, you locate a property, and then once you go to make an offer and you actually go under contract, at that point you begin the underwriting process. But what we found to be more effective is to actually front run that entire process. So what we like to do is actually underwrite that file up front. That means we're going through all the financials. We're submitting that loan to our underwriter. The loan, in fact, is fully pre-approved and even approved up front, and we get what's called a conditional approval. And that's one thing I do want to mention that's an incredible strategy. So instead of starting the process once you find a home, we're doing it on the front end. That way we eliminate any potential 11th hour gotchas where the loan can actually die. And normally when a buyer loses out on a home, it comes down to failing in underwriting. So if we were to do the underwriting up front and give you that client, what does that do from your end as far as what you're able to do for that buyer?
It's amazing, the difference, to be very honest with you. So it allows us to approach every transaction with the utmost confidence. Where we don't have a financing contingency, it's not necessary.
So we're able to waive that, correct?
That is correct. So that in turn, in the seller's eyes, looks almost as if you're a cash buyer.
Interesting. And that's actually a very good point. So if we're waiving the financing contingency, the seller knows that loan is guaranteed. They're more open to negotiating maybe the sales price, maybe some closing costs or seller contributions?
Absolutely, in all aspects, yeah. Yeah. So if you were to have two buyers come in at the same time, which still happens even in this market, and you have one that's going to take 21 days to figure out if they can genuinely purchase the property, or my buyer is walking in saying, I love this house, however, this is what I need, but I was guaranteed to close.
Interesting. So the chances of you getting the house that you're interested in actually go up by taking advantage of the upfront approval guarantee.
Absolutely. Exponentially, actually.
Interesting. Okay. And just to mention, the way that we set it up, there's no cost or obligation to do that. We simply prefer to get our ducks in a row, get everything approved up front. It's a much better client experience. That way you're good to go. And even if that particular property you're interested in doesn't work out, we're able to pivot to the next one. You're still approved, and you're in a good position. So that's actually a very interesting thing. What other details would you say would be important to mention regarding that strategy from your end?
Quick close. Quick close. So for a lot of sellers, they may be selling their home in order to purchase another property.
Right.
And so they have what's called a contingency to sell. So they may need to close their primary residence as quickly as possible in order to move on to their next venture. And that's what this allows us to do. So you could literally take a 30 to 45 day close window and shrink it down to as little as 10 to 14 days.
Wow. No, that is right. And also to mention too, when it comes to affordability, if we can actually lock that loan on a shorter lock period, for example, a 15-day lock versus a 30, we can actually get the client a little bit better deal when it comes to the fees and the interest rate, which does help on the payment, which I know is a big deal these days, since people do want to try to secure the most affordable payment.
Absolutely. Yeah.